Hello everyone, welcome to Systems Biology Podcast. I'm Biplab. With me today we have Dr. Vimalathithan Devaraj. He is a computational biologist working with Sanofi. Welcome Vimal to our Systems Biology Podcast today. So let me start with your current work portfolio. You are a principal biostatistician of the biomarker division of your organization right now, right? So, can you start with telling our audience what is biomarker? And many people are aware of statistics, biostatistics. So, can you explain how biostatistics and general statistics is connected with this biomarker and biomarker discoveries? So, people from different perspective, diverse background from biology, math, or physics, or even computer science can understand what is the connection between these two. Can you start with that?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So let me start with first biomarker. What is biomarker is? So biomarker can be a quantitative measure to evaluate a state of a system. Let's say, for example, we have a healthy people, we have diseased people. So I have two different state. Now, how do I measure? So I need some quantitative method or a measure to define, okay, this is the healthy state or this is a disease state. It can be very simple as in case of diabetes, we do measure glucose level. So that is an indicator. So glucose level, measure of a glucose level can be a biomarker. It says what is the level of glucose in our body. So that's a simple biomarker. Like if you think of a disease where it is controlled not by a single gene or a protein, but a complex system. So in that case, how do I measure? Can I come up with some quantitative measure that can actually help me to define, okay, they are healthy population or they are disease population or they are in a different stage of a disease. So in simple term, it could be a quantitative measure of defining a state of a system. Again, how is it related to statistics? So I'll try to explain it with the pharma domain in drug discovery. So traditionally, biomarker was not of a separate division or a team in any pharma domain in drug discovery. It is convention done by a statistical team where you do all kind of statistical tests whether this assay has succeeded or not, whether this clinical trial has succeeded or not. So that's how it is done. But now we are actually in a era of data. We are actually drowning in data. So given this high throughput data, we have patient gene expression data, protein expression data, sometimes metabolite or epigenetic or even genomic mutation, so and so data. So now we all know, right, that the systems approach, a state of a system is controlled by multiple entities together. It's not like, okay, this is the only protein that I can target. It can be multiple stuff. So given this high throughput or multiple entities of data, together can we define a biomarker? So that is how it is evolving now. So that's now many pharma companies have a separate division biomarker. Mostly their work is integrative data analysis. It's not of the traditional statistics that we do. Like given this high throughput data, together can you define a population? Okay, with this amount of protein, this much amount of gene, so and so genetic modification. Okay, they are population one or population two, something of that sort. So that is where in pharma this biomarker has evolved. And then statistics comes in. Okay, now that you are saying that these are the measure, so together this gene and protein defines the state of a population, disease population. How is it how do you validate them? You can do some what is specificity or accuracy, how sensitive it is, and those are the areas where statistics comes in picture to validate basically, okay, how good is this measure as a biomarker to define the state of a system. So that's how the biomarker and statistics come together in a typical drug discovery program.
Okay, that's quite a good introduction in general. So you will put yourself. I was looking into your LinkedIn profile also. So you will put yourself in the broad area of computational biologists, right? So as I understand, it's very difficult to define in general what is computational biology because it's so diverse, right? And when as a teacher we try to formulate a syllabus or something, then also we find it is such a diverse field. And another issue is that it is actually evolving very fast, right? As more and more computational tools are getting discovered in other fields also people are using, so it is diversifying. So uh, I understand it will be wrong to ask you to give a brief, broad perspective that will not be suitable in this short interview. But I will ask on a focused question. See, you work on biomarker discovery, application of biostatistics in that, particularly biopharma industry. From the very beginning of your career, you're connected with that. So I believe that in biopharma industry, particularly in your field of work, computational biology must be expanding like anything, right? So can you tell us, our audience, in simplified terms, some of the most exciting domains, exciting approaches that are coming up in this particular field?
Yeah, sure. I'll again try to explain it with a typical drug discovery setup. So, if you imagine a complete drug discovery program, we actually start with some indication. Okay, there is a disease where the companies want to invest and identify a therapeutic drug for it. So, we start with a protein. Okay, what is the entity that I can target in a human? And to target it, what is the drug molecule I need? And then it goes into clinical trial. So, evaluating the safety, side effect, and then phase one, phase two. That's how the typical program goes in. So if we start with the early stage discovery where we're trying to shortlist a target and the drug molecule, most of the works are like, okay, if and we don't have steady structure for many protein. So can we use AI driven drug discovery to given amino acid sequence of a protein? Can I have a 3D structure of it? So that is where
So,
people are
if
using.
I interrupt you,
Yeah.
it is something like the AlphaFold has achieved
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, that's
Okay.
something
Okay.
similar.
Can you
So that
please
is one
continue?
domain where people extensively use them in early discovery and for a protein structure as well as for a drug molecule. Can I have a virtual screen? Can I have a new molecule? Okay, these are my desired property of a drug which I wanted to target this protein. Given this property, can you design a molecule for it? So that's where people use AI-driven discovery. So target as well as a drug molecule to be used,
So, do
and then
you mean, see, in some students maybe from the chemistry background, do you mean when we are using some artificial intelligence model, right, or machine learning model to create new molecule? You mean they are, or you people are trying to design the molecule itself, the basic backbone of the molecule? Suppose it's a small molecule, backbone of the molecule also,
yeah,
like that?
it's based on prior knowledge. So since we already have a successful molecules which has been passed in the clinical
Okay.
trial, we know their properties, everything. So giving all those information as an input for the model. So given those desired profile, now can you generate some new molecule? So basically, like instead of trying everything, like conventionally people used to synthesize them in the laboratory and then test it in small cell-based experiment whether it is working or not. So in that case, they have to try a lot of experiment. Now this AI driven discovery will generate a huge array of molecule and virtually you can screen them with the target protein and then minimize the number of experiments so that basically it improves the speed and as well as scale of the experiment. So that is something where in early stage discovery people are using it. I have not extensively worked on those. My work is mostly in the integrative data analysis, the next part, wherein we'll have multiple data starting from expression, gene expression, protein expression, metabolite. So given all this data, how do we basically integrate them? So integrate them to get a bigger picture. So for example, so now that we know what are the disease indication, now we know the proteins in the human. So from the open source databases or from the known information, can I build a network where I can integrate RNA, protein, metabolite, and known molecules targeted for that particular protein and maybe other disease indication where those molecules are being used? So with this huge amount of information, now can I prioritize certain target for this particular disease? Something of that sort, and it can be done in two way. One is more mechanistic way where we put lot of known biology information, their interaction entity, and then do a conventional way. Or it can be a black box way where you have so much of data you do not know how do they interact. Instead, put in all this information, put a graph neural network or attention based mechanism, and then see, do we see any pattern? Can I segregate each different population based on all this information? That is something they call it as integrative data analysis, where you put in all the known information, and either a black box way of doing it or a typical network analysis where you put a lot of known biological information, connect them with the information, and then see the inference. That could be one way, one area where broadly computational biologists are involved in. The other third part which I would do iterate is the digital twins, where it's more of systems mechanistic based modeling, where people are actually wanted to have a replica of a patient population. So
Can you just explain to
yeah,
people that
yeah.
what is actually digital twin?
Yeah. So digital twin is actually a virtual patient. Like let's say, for example, for this clinical trial phase one, I have set of population, a placebo who gonna treat or some other treatment arm. Instead of having a patient population tested, I'll have virtually a machine which is a replica of a human. So how do I construct them? So already I might have some data about their genetics. Do they have any expression data or protein data or some other biosensor like wearable watches? I get some data from them. So using those data, can I have a virtual human and then test it on them instead of directly putting it on the actual human? So that is where people are investing now, and a lot of pharma
So
companies
you
are
are
trying
creating a virtual human
human.
being in your
Yeah,
machine, right?
yeah,
And if I interfere interject here, see, possibly you are not trying to create the whole human being, right? Only a part of the characteristic of that particular person, right? Isn't it?
yeah, true. So because once we have this drug protein disease, we already have some idea about the mechanism of action or what are the possible pathway that will be triggered by this drug and all that. So we only try to capture the bare minimum that actually is good enough to capture the whole dynamics, and then start a virtual system, and then slowly see how the virtual system responds. And this would actually bring down the cost as well, because doing a human trial is very expensive. So now the most of the companies are slowly venturing into digital twins. That's where one area where I could see a lot of focus going in the pharma companies now in the recent trend, because of high throughput computation AI, because we have a lot of information. So with this information, can we integrate them and create a virtual human? So this is
So
something where,
essentially, it is systems level model in a
yeah,
small
yeah,
scale or a
yeah,
moderate scale of a human being.
human.
So, do you think this could be very interesting to use to replace or reduce the number of animal trials also?
Yeah, definitely. Now even people are
Do you
doing
think
that
this
as
type
well.
of work are happening across the globe in academia or industry that where
In
people are
industry more.
creating
I,
systems
I
level
believe
model?
the preliminary research are mostly done in academia. So then the industry collaborate with them, and then they bring it to the industrial scale. So there are a lot of models I've seen where they actually wanted to eliminate animal testing. Like mostly
Yeah.
for toxicity studies, they have a lot of models for liver toxicity, cardiotoxicity. So instead of testing it on an animal, can we have a virtual model that would say whether this drug would trigger any toxic response in the system or not?
Oh, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so if I come back to your background, right, as I understand, you have done BTech in Industrial Biotechnology from Shastra, right? And then you did PhD from IIT Guwahati. So you jumped from BTech to directly to PhD, doing PhD. In between, possibly for a short duration, you work in IT firm also, right? Like most of the BTech students do, right? So you worked there and then went to academia, then did PhD, again came back to industry. So what make you thought of doing PhD
Okay.
rather than sticking to the corporate world where you entered there, right?
Okay. So, yeah, as you rightly mentioned, my UG undergraduate is in industrial biotech. So, I had a more of mathematics related paper in my curriculum, like heat transfer, mass transfer, chemical reaction engineering, thermodynamics, and less of hardcore biology. I never had any immunology paper. So, less of biology and more of a mathematical. So, that how somewhat triggered interest in me. So, when physical systems can be like studied with equation, you design a bioreactor to meet so and so criteria. So can we study even the biological cell also using some mathematical approach or equation? That's how my interest in using mathematics or computational biology on the cell started evolving. But as every other BTech students, I also got placed in an IT sector. So I thought maybe I should have some exposure to the corporate world to understand what is happening around the world. So I ventured into TCS, and I was into a development project, mostly running SQL query. One thing which I liked there is that gave me more confidence on coding. Although I had a C programming curriculum in my UG, but that was only in the first year. I never used it extensively during the 4 year BTech program. But after getting into TCS, that gave me more confidence on my coding skill, how to write a code very structured way, how actually people work together. So all those stuff. Then I thought, I mean, my actual long-term goal was to be an independent researcher, where I can frame an hypothesis, design an experiment, and then test them, validate them, and then see what is the result. That's what is my interest is. And then I realized, like, now that I have a strong background in my UG, and I'm good at coding as well, so why don't I start my PhD wherein I can interlink both? I mean, a computational way of studying a biological system. And for to be an independent researcher, PhD is mandatory. So when there is an option for a direct PhD, why not try it? So that's how it started.
Okay, that's good. That's quite informative for the students who are looking for career opportunities and guidances. So I will connect with this, which is a very common question. I think any student who is listening to this podcast will think of is that just like you, a large number of BTech biotechnology students or BTech bioengineering students across India, they are always more mathematics oriented, computation oriented, rather than doing experimental biology, those things, right? They have groomed themselves from the very beginning that way, so they have more knack in using equation. They feel at home when they see maths and computing, right? So for those BTech biotechnology, BTech bioengineering students, if you can suggest something that how they should groom themselves. In short, obviously you cannot give them a whole lecture on in this short time about how to prepare for the future career perspective. But in general, I mean, what should they focus on? What skill they should hone in their undergraduate time, so that they can also diversify and move like you to eventually to the field of computational biology in the corporate world.
Sure. Yeah, first thing is I would suggest them to have a broad exposure to several entities, which I would list eventually, because industries like operate on a different way. They look for a specific skill set. They want somebody to onboard on day one and start the task rather than exploring. Say, for example, if a person is good in Python, obviously he can do R as well. So syntax differs, the logic gonna be remain same. So, but then they don't look in that way. They want somebody who can start the program on the day one itself. So it's better to have a broader exposure when you are in a academic curriculum. One is programming, that is mandatory. So Python, and I would suggest R as well, because now pharma cluster is moving from SAS to R. They consider R is good for statistics, and they operate as a cluster. So every pharma has now started using promoting R in their industry standard, and they're using R. I don't know why not they use Python, but they stick to R. So it's better to have Python and R, because most of the data science related algorithm models, everything is available in Python and easy. So I would recommend people to have a good exposure in Python as well as R. Programming is like a mandatory. And then a bit of exposure to bioinformatics. Say, for example, what are the bioinformatics database available? How do you align a sequences? Do some blast. Basic exposure should be there so that we can manage in industry. Maybe running an RNA-seq pipeline. Some a bit of exposure to bioinformatics. So that could help us to enter into industry where they only run NGS pipeline or develop new methods on that part. So some exposure of bioinformatics, and then some exposure on the data analysis and statistics. So once we get the output from the any omics, like it can be RNA-seq or a genomic or metabolomic, you get huge amount of data. Now, how do we make some meaningful information from the data? We don't need a strong biology background for it, hardcore biology background for it, because industry is like more streamlined. So you always have a person for a biology there, like a point of contact or somebody who's a domain expert. So they would actually help us to convert a biological problem into a mathematical problem. So if you're good in mathematics and pattern recognition, okay, given this high throughput data, do you see any pattern? Okay, I have two, three groups together. How do I see pattern? Can I use diamond shorty reduction? Basic stuff like PCA, UMAP, TSNE, to start with. Okay, given thrown any high throughput data, how do you make sense out of it? Can I look for any pattern? Some amount of data science skill set that will help us to have a we can easily enter into multiple industries, what I want to say, because they look for specific skill set. Somebody look for NGS pipeline, somebody wants to do some automation using Xflow pipeline, somebody wants to do only network analysis. So if you can have a broader exposure in all this, it will definitely help you to get into industry. Probably after getting in, then you can streamline your skill set as per your interest, is what I would suggest. Because I had exposure of all this thing somehow in my PhD and later stage, that helped me to even switch industry easily depending on the domain, rather than sticking
Yeah,
to
so
a
in
narrow domain.
general, if
Always
you
have a
look into
broader.
if you look into general course curriculum for most BTech, bioengineering and biotechnology established institutions, right? So they have some component of math, some component of bioinformatics, right? Some component of machine learning nowadays also. So obviously they are going through that courses. But when you say some, experience and those, do you mean that they should do some sort of projects, something like that, so that they can hone their skill apart from the curriculum they are doing in the course, suppose in
Yeah,
bioinformatics or machine learning?
Yeah, that will be definitely useful because now we have a lot of open source data. If you go to Gene Expression Omnibus, we'll have all of RNA-seq data available. Even the raw counts are available. Maybe they can develop some. Okay, I can develop a classification model to classify them into different groups. They can put it on their GitHub page, which will eventually it will be easy for them to get into industry because they have a code, so they can people can evaluate their coding style. So it will be easy for them eventually to enter into industry because a lot of data is available. RNA-seq, microRNA data, even proteomics data. So it's usually you can develop a classification model where you can stratify a patient population. All those stuffs can be done. That actually gives an added advantage for people to get into industry.
Okay, so connecting to that, and the last question from my side for today. See, particularly students from other disciplines of science, for example, maths, physics, or engineering like computer science and electronics, even mechanical, any other discipline of engineering and science. Usually, they get an idea from very early in their life is that biology and maths are not like oil and water. You don't mix up. But historically, if you look into the history of biology, people from all other discipline has contributed.
Mhm.
Even Nobel laureates are there who are means from different other fields. And honestly speaking, right now in academia, also in industry, also I see people from other discipline coming and working in biology related problem across, right? And almost all industry, big corporate companies has the article related to biology. So now I see some of our students from physics or maths or computation, computer science department particularly, or data science departments, right? They are getting interested to venture into biology related problem where they can contribute. So, what should be your suggestion for them? If you can give them some sort of guidance in this.
Okay. Say if they are from mathematics background or from a physics background, I would suggest them to be very strong in their domain and basic information of a biology like what is a gene protein how interact should be good enough that's very industrial setup because here one person will never be doing the end-to-end process like starting from data generation till a product. The industries are very streamlined, so we'll always have somebody into core biology wherein they do some basic literature analysis and then uh, convert basically a biological problem into a mathematical problem, a biologist and a computational biologist. Once you have a mathematical problem, then comes to a more of like a computer science engineer. Let's say I wanted to develop a graph neural network with attention mechanism, so we wanted somebody who's very good at computation as well as who has some physics knowledge as well. So obviously if they are very strong in their domain, in one of our project wherein we wanted to build a neural network, but then it's not data driven, we want to put in a lot of domain knowledge, so we took a help of chem informatician as well as a person who's good in physics to define all those atom length angle everything. So we also needed such information from those people as well. So obviously they should be very strong in their domain, and then basic understanding of a biology like protein gene how we interact and what system. They don't want to, I mean I don't want to
So you,
suggest them
you
to
mean level undergraduate one level biology that we teach usually even in the ICT curriculum we have now in engineering courses that first year people study every engineering student study biology. So that amount of biology is good enough for them to start the whole
yeah, in the industrial
right?
scale definitely, yeah, that is good enough.
Okay, okay. Okay, Bimal, thanks a lot for giving your time and spending the weekend with me here, giving your insights on this, very competitive, exponentially growing field, which is broadly called computational biology. And I hope this discussion will instigate some of our students, undergraduate and postgraduate, even PhD students, to venture into uh, this area of computational biology, mathematical biology, or systems biology, whatever we call it, right? And not just in academics, maybe also in the industry. Thank you for joining with me today.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you, sir.
you.
Thanks everyone.